Our company was called the Comfort Guy. If I've heard this once on a job site, I've heard it a million times. You're not a guy. Some people just couldn't shake it knowing a woman would be assessing their home for a new furnace. But some were absolutely ecstatic that a woman was in charge of their home's heating. To be fair, women make up 48% of the Canadian workforce, and only 14.2% are counted in registered trades. Several of these registries are hairdressers. It was in those early stages of greeting the customer that I took the time to show my stuff, to prove I was as credible as my male counterpart. Maybe, just maybe, a little better. I think these are the reasons we as women struggle so much more. Not only are we competing for this space in an industry we don't always feel we belong in, all while taking on every other task in the universe. You know what I mean? Like, it's our expectation of ourselves, which in turn takes us to a whole other level of stress. Self-care is forgotten. We are forgotten. Because of this, we sometimes struggle with our own identity too. Even in our everyday tasks. Even things simple. For example, have you ever tried to create your bio, like for your LinkedIn profile? It's really hard, right? I had to create one for this presentation and my book. So I reached out to my friends and family, and I asked them what words would they use to describe me. They used words like strong, caring, loving, confident, brave. One even said warrior. Why warrior? She said, you're not afraid to be you. You are you. You work hard and you're not afraid to share and help others do the hard work either. Kind of like a warrior, only in heels. I had to laugh because it was such a difference in what they saw and how I actually felt. Because my friends, most days, I don't feel like a warrior or even close. I guess because it wasn't how I felt, it's what I chose. Even when you don't feel like a warrior or your own version of what that looks like for you, you step in with warrior heels and you knock it out of the park anyway. I've learned a lot the hard way about creating the life and business I want. But one of the first things I had to learn was self-care. And by self-care, I mean getting rid of the head trash and other obstacles that are keeping you from living the life that you want. And I want to show you how to find your inner warrior and be able to create the life you want. Have the tough conversations, get things done, and not lose your sense of self along the way. So, warrior it is. Now, I only have 18 minutes, well, probably 16 now, to tell you everything I've learned in a lifetime about self-care. But those tips are not the real issue, are they? Because knowing what we should do is not always the same as doing it. And I don't think any of us is born with warrior DNA. For many of us, self-care isn't something we automatically embrace. It's something that we have to learn. Let's start with the head trash. That's the stuff we feed our brain about ourselves, the lies we believe, the inner thoughts that work against us instead of for us. I believe the way we operate in this world is a result of how we were raised. My father, he was an alcoholic. He taught me that you have to fight for what you want, but it wasn't the good kind of fighting, it was the bully kind. My mom taught me to keep the peace. So it would make sense that I would create habits of letting bullies win for the sake of just keeping the peace. Do you find yourself choosing to just keep the peace, even when you know you should speak up? Yeah, I've been there too. You may think it's easier to just give in and hold back, but doing that over and over is actually heavier, isn't it? Maybe it's time to put the weight down. It doesn't serve you anymore. What does that even look like? I think it looks like the things you've conditioned yourself to believe in and tell yourself, what I'm calling the head trash. Maybe it's the way you think about yourself when you look in the mirror, or maybe it was a direct message you were given. My mom told me that, much like her, I wasn't born smart. I could, however, work really hard and accomplish lots. Maybe she was trying to humble me, or she actually believed I wasn't smart. I really can't be sure. But the point is that I fought against that belief for most of my life. And it gave me the fierce drive to succeed. Maybe you're telling yourself that you can't make it in a male-dominated workplace, where every day you are surrounded by men as if you were in a high school football team locker room where you don't belong, just feeling your way. In my late 20s, I worked for a dentist who was also an anesthesiologist. We put our patients to sleep for their work. I was his assistant, and he was old school. He had a full head of white hair, wore only green scrubs, and was very sarcastic and gruff. He treated me more like his personal assistant, not his professional assistant. He was a bully, and I'm no stranger to bullies. One day in the operatory, a patient asked him, "Why don't we have a TV in the room to distract me from what you're doing?" He looked at her, with me standing right beside him. "My staff are already too distracted to have a TV in the operatory." This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. My face was red hot, and I was embarrassed. I felt immediate shame, as if somehow that was true. I waited until our lunch break, and then I walked into his office. He didn't move. He just looked at me over his glasses. I tried to be strong, but I said to him, "That wasn't fair. You can't talk to me like that in front of a patient. It's not right. And I'm far from distracted." He barely moved, and without missing a beat and not looking back up, "Cambridge Dental is hiring," he said. I stood there for a second, dumbfounded at his response. And then I ran out of the office. I was in my faded pink scrubs, and I jumped into my old silver Honda, and I just cried. And I cried and I cried. Like, what can I do? I have 3 kids and a mortgage to pay. And I realized in that moment, I just needed to be brave until I found another job. Lunch was over. I had to turn that cry into a roar, and I walked back into his office with a courage I did not feel. I had a runny nose, swollen eyes, and I said to him, "I've done nothing wrong. It's you that's misspoke. I don't have to leave, nor can you fire me. So let's just get back to work." He got up from his desk, slapped on his blue latex gloves, and headed back into the operatory as if nothing had happened. But that day, he changed. He gave me more responsibilities. He taught me more. Maybe it was respect. I learned resilience and courage, and he taught that to me, just like my dad had when I'd stood up to him when no one else would. Funny how these life lessons rear their heads when you least expect it. I realized at that moment that I could only control me and my actions. Now that's a tough lesson to learn, but it's pretty rewarding when you do. If you take one thing from what I have to share with you, listen to this. Find the stressors and identify them. When you do this, you can feel them and you can take control over them. This is the first step in genuine self-care. I used to feel guilty for my stressors as if they were my own fault. And sometimes they were. I chose them. And in the end, they've led me to where I am today talking to you. But here's the thing about a warrior. She doesn't spend a lot of time on guilt and shame. I learned that the way that you look at the pain impacts the stress. The trick is to see the pain as information. You can now use this information to turn stress into a situation. It already feels better calling it a situation rather than stress, right? You seek out the help of your inner warrior. At this time, it doesn't mean you're the strongest or the toughest one in the room, or even the smartest or the bravest. No matter what others thought, let yourself feel. Cry. Like, be in that moment if you need to, and just like I did in my car that day. And then it's time to move forward. We've got stuff to do. We can't just stay there. We've all had those days when we don't think we can, but we do it anyway. When you do, the next time you feel you can't deal, you remember that you've been there before. Just like the dental office job. Being brave even when you don't feel brave. That's the real warrior speaking out. I decided too soon to marry my first husband. I had visions of bliss and joy dancing in my head. Boy, was I wrong there. There's plenty of learning in a practice marriage. I don't have time today for those details, but they are all in my book. Now, with 3 little kids in tow, I had to find a solution for them. I had to be in more control for them. I learned to focus on the solution and not the fault or the fixing of it, because that's what keeps you stuck. When stress is too heavy, you need to turn it around and look at it square on, rationalize it. I began dreaming of the life I wanted and what that looked like. I think it's a common problem, holding off our dreams until we are worthy. That's non-warrior, beating ourselves up for not getting the life that we want. Key here is to ask yourself, what is your dream? You can't get there if you can't define it. And if you can't define it, you don't even consider it. And not considering it because you don't think you're worth it, you'd be amazed how much happens when you just start putting your dreams onto paper. Your expectations, your boundaries. Do you even know the boundaries in your life that you expect others not to cross? Is it time to set boundaries on how others will treat you and respect your time? If you don't set boundaries, people can't honor them. Even dogs and children crave boundaries and expectations. It just makes them happier. It's going to make you happier too. Now, just a word of warning. Your choices and boundaries are not always accepted by those being bound. People push back. This is even more of a reason to bind them to paper. Look at them every day. Feel them happening right now. You are the warrior in control of this life of yours, not the people reacting. Remember when you were the one reacting? Turn it around and do it now. Write it down. Maybe that's the only message I have for you today. And let me tell you, it's more than enough. And that's the message that you can change. You can expect more. No, you can't control that boss, but possibly you can control the situation. You can turn your cry into a roar, and even though you don't control what that boss does, trust me, the bully doesn't always get out of your way. You can still be the warrior. You may not win that battle, but you will win the war, because this is about living life on your terms, and that is your right, my friend. It's your absolute right to claim this time, no matter how old you are or where you stand on this day. Little did I know that my charming prince would show up one day to fix my furnace. No, that doesn't mean anything sexy. He really did fix my furnace. And then I married him. So now I find myself with a new husband, the furnace guy, the same 3 kids, and all the things that come with raising a family. Then I started helping my husband with his own business. Now, if you've ever been in a part of a family business, you know all the challenges that it brings with it. It becomes the responsibility of the entire family, whether you signed up for it or not. I learned how to do the books and how to promote the business, how to sell. We started working out of the garage, banging sheet metal deep into the night. Do you know how loud banging sheet metal is? My kids and neighbors sure do. Within 7 months, we outgrew our home, and our heating cooling company got a real office. We grew and grew for 16 years. There were great years, and there were horrible years. And I know the feeling of lying awake many nights wondering how I was going to make payroll or pay the mortgage. Even in lean times, we were proud. We built a brand on integrity and customer service, and our employees never did miss a pay. I ran the office, payroll, accounts payable, receivable, managed all the advertising accounts. I even ran for board positions in the community. I was the hamster running on that wheel at top speed, and finally just spinning out. I used to think that doing a million things at once was admirable. My favorite mantra was, I got this. Time for me was something I considered selfish, unnecessary, or a once-a-year kind of thing. We get used to putting everybody else first, and then I learned that how well I fought this battle really depended on how well I prepared for it. And I learned that if you don't stop, your body will find a way to stop you. So there I was, living my dream, running my own biz, no nasty bosses. Well, other than myself some days. We had a reputable heating and cooling company. Making decisions mattered. Managing a staff, customer sales, administration, running a house and children, getting them where they needed to be, taking care of my ailing dad. Then just when my many juggling of the plates were about to fall, my husband's stress reached an all-time high, and his panic attacks began. I thought a trip to Jamaica would solve this stress. Vacation, self-care. You ever go on a vacation and come home so far behind that you need a vacation to recover from the vacation? Same. Now Dad was in the hospital again. We didn't feel rejuvenated because vacation isn't self-care, but I didn't know it then. I was so busy doing to see what was coming. Self-care is a daily practice, and this lesson taught me so much, mostly that life is happening for us. Are you paying attention to your life? Maybe you're so busy doing that you don't see what's coming either. By the time I noticed that the spots were spreading, it was already too late. I figured it out in the parking lot of the medical clinic. Anyway, the doc confirmed that I had shingles. Too late for the antivirus, might as well eat chiclets, he says. The heck, I had no time for shingles. I had rarely taken even one day off for illness. I could probably work through this, I thought. I had a severe case of shingles that made my entire face look like a flippin' war zone. My eyes were swelled shut, and I spent the next 16 days in bed. Life forced me to stop and get off that ride for a while. I couldn't see, so I couldn't work, no matter how much I thought I needed to. That 16 days changed my life. I truly believe that while it was the worst thing to be happening to me at this time, it was actually the best thing to be happening to me. I believe that every situation, no matter how tough, has a hidden gift in it. It just can make you stronger if you choose to let it. So I chose to let it. My point here is that this could have been a whole lot worse than shingles based on my stress. And that, my friends, is the important lesson. Shingles taught me that I can't do everything, and that's okay. And it taught me to rely on my team, allow them to show their stuff. I didn't need to be there 24/7. It also showed me that self-care is just as serious as anything else I'm doing, and that it deserves top priority. I learned that taking care of myself was more than just a yearly vacation or a nap. And I learned that what I do was impacting the way my children would behave. I have 3 girls. If I don't model it, they're not going to learn it. Sometimes the best thing you can do to serve is to serve yourself and stop everything and just go have dinner with your kids. Today I've truly learned the gift in life, that it is short. We aren't promised tomorrow. I've learned that it's finally okay to have my turn. On April 30th of 2021, we sold our business. We said goodbye to that old dream and hello to a new one. And that dream is what brought me here today, sitting in front of you. What I've written about in my book, living out my purpose and my mission to help you get the life you want, to help you find your warrior, and to help you finally see that it's your turn. I'm Cheryl Ann Lovey, and I can't wait for all of you to share with me how you took your turn and started your new chapter. Send me your story at CherylAnnLovey.com, and please, please take good care, ladies. You got this.